Hey, before we get into today's episode, if you're a podcast host or guest, listen up. I've produced over 200 podcast episodes and guested on 50 podcasts just in 2025 alone. And let me tell you, nothing grows your audience or builds trust faster than being in front of the right listeners. That's why I created my podcast tour offer. I'll help you map out your topics, strategize your message, and find you the most aligned podcasts and audiences to get you and your business in front of. So if you've ever thought, I just wish more eyes were on my work, this is your sign. Let's get you on a podcast tour. You can find all the details in the show notes. Just look for podcast tour. Now let's dive into today's episode. The episode you're about to hear is a talk that I did for a Moms Behind the Mic Summit. Shout out to Jenny. She was just on the show a couple weeks ago. Go follow her podcast and her social media so that you can stay up to date with the summits that she runs. They're awesome for moms in business, growing a business online and doing it smart, strategically. And this is the talk that I gave for one of her summits a few months ago, but it is my entire framework for strategic podcast guesting that I lay out and use with my paying clients in a done for you fashion, but this is a DIY option for you. So here you go. First things first, you have a chance to join my podcast matchmaking community. It is free and there's over 300 people in it right now and growing every single day. It is for podcast hosts looking for guests and for guests that are looking for podcasts to speak on. This is a space like none other where you can skip the awkward introductions, know that you're both there for the right reasons. There's a short form for each party in there that they fill out the speaking topics they're looking to talk about or have on their show. And that lets you jump right into how they prefer to be contacted and really skip over some of those first initial steps when looking for guests for your podcast and or looking for guest spots for you to speak on podcasts. Okay, let's dive in. Hello and welcome to Audio Authority. I'm Candace Dudley. I'm a podcast guesting coach and strategist. I also host my own podcast for over the last 4.5 years called Podcasting Mentor with over 200 episodes produced. I guest spoke on 50 podcasts in 2025, sent myself on a podcast tour, and that's exactly what I do for my clients as a strategic way to grow their business. And this whole recording is going to be sharing the strategy that I use for myself and my clients. And if you were here last year, this is my second go of the Moms Behind the Mic Summit with Jenny, and I'm thrilled to be back in it. Her community is wonderful. So I'm glad you're here listening to this. This has an extra year's worth of experience, personal and through my clients under my belt. So this is much deeper and more specific than it was last year if you were here. Let's dive in. I hate wasting time. Why I started a podcast tour, and I feel like this story is where you can kind of self-identify yourself and see, is this for me? Am I feeling the same way? In January 2025, I was home with the kids. I have 3 young kids, and I was home on winter break, feeling very confident in my business and where I had gotten it to, especially getting really specific with my niche. My offers felt great. I felt very embodied in my work, and I was buzzing with that new year energy, wanting to get it seen and have more eyeballs on it. But I didn't have time to be doing more. My kids were home. I didn't have a quiet house to be recording reels and being on social media 24/7. And so I really was looking for a way to gain more visibility, but not by adding more to my plate. It kind of was a light bulb moment when I was thinking, hey, I love podcasting, so I'm going to lean in here and become my own best client and send myself on a podcast tour as well. So that's why I got into it. And that's coming off of a December 2024 where I had done not one, but 2 30 Reels in 30-day challenges. I had started a new TikTok. I had started a LinkedIn because that's what other people were telling me to do, other experts. And this is just a good reminder that all strategies can work, but they're not all going to work for you. And I didn't see results, and it felt like a drag and like just a hustle and a grind to manage all of those. And so podcasting was it for me. Here's another quick 4 categories that you might be feeling, and this might mean that doing a podcast tour would be for you. And that's if you're feeling like you're posting consistently, but you want more control over who you're reaching and you are sick of relying on the algorithm. Or you fall into this category where you've mastered one platform. Maybe you're really good at Instagram and it's time to diversify that visibility, but you don't want to start a new TikTok or a LinkedIn or whatever it might be. Maybe you fall into this third bucket where you're getting results with your content and message, but it's very limited because we all know that kind of content has a very limited reach, not as much engagement, and so you're just limited on who gets to see it. Or 4, maybe you are really good at attracting leads, but you get in the DMs and you get in emails and you have to explain who it is that you are, who you help. It's like you have to kind of prove who you are and what you do, and that's just an uphill battle that doesn't feel good either. you've seen it where people are just adding so much to their plates. They're adding more and more and feeling crazy, right? And I don't want that for you. If you're thinking, maybe I just need a new lead magnet, maybe I need to start a podcast, which maybe you do, but maybe you don't. And maybe you need to start this or that. Let's dive in to one option that might be great for you, since obviously you're interested in podcasting, is a podcast tour. Some mindset pieces we need to address. I'll list them here, but we're going to cover these. I need to have a big audience first. No, not true. I don't know what I'd talk about, or it's only for big names. I need to have my own podcast to guest. I don't have time to pitch. I don't want to be pushy or salesy. So we're going to cover all these. So the first one, you're flipping that I need to have a big audience first to my audience is the perfect size for the right people. My client Kelly is the perfect example of this. She's a website SEO strategist, and she was in a spot in her business where she wanted to reach the right people. She was a work-at-home mom. She's got littles at home. She did not want to do more. She wanted people to find her easily. And also she was in a spot in her business where her focus was marketing her business, getting more people to see her. So she signed up with me to do a podcast tour, and her goal was to guest on 6 podcasts that year. Also, she had under 1,500 Instagram followers at the time. Not only did we crush that goal of 6 podcasts in a year, she was booked for 7 in a week. And consistently, because I've kept up with her, she's been booked out with clients for 3 months in advance on repeat. And I want that for everyone, right? I want that for myself. I want that for you. My 4-step approach in podcast tour is very streamlined. That's one of the core values, and also value led, leading with that heart, leading with value. So the first step is to clarify your niche speaking topics. So going from I don't know what I talk about to I know exactly what I'll talk about, because here's what you do. Clarifying those niche speaking topics. If you've ever tried to guest on a podcast before, maybe you thought, oh, this was really fun, but I didn't see anything that showed growth as far as my business. I didn't see any new followers. I constantly felt a little awkward trying to plug my business. The host asked me questions outside of my expertise. Your topic, or lack thereof, because sometimes I talk with people and they never even discuss a topic, is where you went wrong. So the most important step in the process, and that's why this one is first, is to figure out what your niche speaking topics are. I say to have 2 or 3 in your back pocket that are really specific. I like to write mine as podcast episode titles. If you're wondering, gosh, I don't even know what could mine be, here's what you're going to do right now. Ask yourself, if I had to guest on a podcast tomorrow with no time to prepare, I would talk about blank, right? Whatever comes to mind, lean into that. That's likely a spot that you have a speaking topic. The other parts that you can look at are your offers. Do you have a lead magnet? Do you have a paid offer, a dream client? Do those all match up? Hopefully they do. Hopefully you have that alignment already set in your business. If you don't, tweak it, make some tweaks. There's a topic in there. What topic is within all that? Because that's how you get on the show and the host asks you things that are right in your wheelhouse. So the next mindset flip are 2 things. It's only for big names. You're flipping that to, there are podcasts looking for guests like me, and I don't have my own podcast to guest. The right podcast won't require a swap from me. A great example of this is I was on Sydney O'Brien's podcast last year, Mompreneur Mastery, and I booked a podcast to her client right from that show, which is no surprise to me because her show is specifically about marketing in a different way, being visible in a different way. So her audience is already there looking for different ways other than, post a reel every day, be on social media all the time. And so they would be the perfect audience to consider going on a podcast tour because it's different than what the masses are saying. Another example would be I was on Powerful Woman Rising podcast with Melissa Snow, and I booked a speaking gig from that. Her show is for women in entrepreneurship, typically 40 and up, age 40 and up, and they're further along typically in their business. So they often have memberships or summits, things like that they're looking for speakers. That's why that alignment piece, and I do that for my clients, is I handpick those podcasts that I know match their speaking topics and what they're about for them. But that's what you're going to be looking for when you're listening to podcasts and considering if this audience would be looking for my topics. And when they match up, things can move really fast. You can start booking shows, you can start seeing new followers, seeing new clients right from that show, because you really get to, as you know, being in this podcast summit, you get to borrow that trust from that host, which speeds up the process, that know, like, and trust process. The last group of the mindset reset is I don't have time to pitch and I don't want to be pushy or salesy. You're flipping that to pitching is quick and easy with this method. and I lead with value and service. So the pitch, we want to be very genuine, be human, do your homework, listen to the show, focus on your value that you bring. And that's just your speaking topics. And so what you can do when you send that pitch, and I recommend a DM. Now, if you're in the PR world or you're in a bit bigger production type podcast, it's likely that email is going to be your best bet. But right now, the hosts that I've talked with who are more independent shows and a smaller team, maybe you have a VA, maybe you have a few assistants or people that work for you and you're on a smaller scale, those people typically prefer a DM just to reach out. This is going to speed up the process as well. It's going to be so much faster than curating big emails, attaching a media sheet or one-page sheet. You put in the pitch 2 things. One is something to show you've done your homework, meaning share something that you really connected with about their show, their values, their message, their mission. And then 2, say, I know I could bring a lot of value to your show with these 3 topics, list your speaking topics, and just simply say, do any of them sound like a fit? And hit send, because now they don't have to worry about clicking a link in your email that might be spam or give them a virus. They can hop right over to your social media page and see that you're a real human. I have had clients book up to 5 shows in one day doing this because it is so quick and easy, and you don't have to worry about being salesy and pushy because you are leading with that value. You're not reaching out like you've seen on Threads where people are posting, I have a goal to guest on 25 podcasts this year. Who wants to have me? That's not what you're doing. You're not focusing on yourself. You're focusing on the value you can bring and serve their audience. And as a podcast host myself, that's absolutely what we're all looking for. And the 4th step now is you go out and pitch. And I will share a free tracker with Jenny so she can link this, but go ahead and download that because you're going to want to stay organized. Keep track of where you're at with each show, what topics you're pitching them, if they've said yes, if you've booked a date. But that's when you get those DMs going. And that's part of my streamlined process is the tracker. And when you work with me, I fill that whole thing out and I will deliver all of the contact information from the show and the hosts, and so that you don't have to search and do the guesswork of hunting down emails. I'll send them right to you. With that, you also would get, if you were in my podcast tour, speaking topics, your episode mapped out with my 3-part method, questions the host can ask you so that everything is really seamless, and you can share all of that ahead of time so that it does lead to being asked things that are in your wheelhouse, that highlight you as the authority in your industry, and you can go from there, because then that makes it very strategic, very easy to get your business worked in, mainly lets you give value that you're best at, your expertise is within, to the show that you're on. And if there's anything I can leave you with, it's this. Podcast hosts are always looking for new guests who can bring and add value to their community. Why can't that be you? Just think, if there's a podcast and they have a weekly guest episode, that's 50 guests a year. Let's let that be you. Your next dream client is likely already searching for you, but they're in someone else's audience. And by being on the right podcast, it's like inserting yourself in that room and putting yourself right there where they're already looking. And if you follow these steps and you run with this on your own, I love that for you. If you want to book a podcast tour with me, you know where to find me, at Candace Dudley on Instagram or Threads. Either way, I'm so excited and cheering you on, and your success is inevitable. This will work. You will book shows. It will happen. Okay, thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for being here. And go ahead, like I said, go find me on Instagram at Candace Dudley. Tag me, send me a DM what you thought. If you still have some lingering questions, you can shoot those over too. It is me behind the screen, and I would love nothing more than to hear from you so that I can cheer you on. Hey, before you go, if you've ever wished podcast guesting or hosting felt a little easier, you're going to love this. I started a free podcast matchmaking community where hosts and guests can actually connect, swap shows, and find aligned conversations without all the cold pitching and chaos. It's totally free, it's super fun, and it's growing every day. So whether you're looking to grow your audience, get in front of the right people, or just finally get your message out there, come join us. You can find the link in the show notes to join the community.